Hello, how are you today? We're so glad to see you. You know, there are so many ways to publish our books these days, including the traditional route. Publishing companies usually have, don't be offended, publishing companies usually have higher standards than we have ourselves because they know what makes a book good and how to sell it. So we would be wise to work with them if Christ sends us that way. But what does it take to get them interested in our proposal? My guest today is going to tell us. Hi, I'm Patricia Durgan, and this is Marketers on a Mission. We present marketing tutorials and interviews by and for Christian writers, speakers, and artists. This is episode number 153, 4 Steps to Write a Traditionally Published Book with author Robin Bertram. Hello, Robin. How are you?
Hello, Patricia. So good to be with you again. Thank you.
It's a real treat. It's a real treat. Last time we had an initial interview about 4 or 5 weeks ago, and viewers, I'm going to put the link to that so you don't miss anything. I'm going to put the link to that directly after we get finished with this program. But we didn't get to the marketing element, and it was so wonderful. You agreed in your kindness and generosity to join us again. So this will be a little bit different kind of a program, but we do want to hit a few basics along the way. Because you've been busy since we talked last time you were with me. You were promoting and still are Hidden Treasures.
Yeah.
And since then, you've been to my city 3 times.
I have been very busy, very thankful, very busy selling Hidden Treasures.
It's beautiful. It's beautiful. And you've had many wonderful TV interviews, and even your husband joined you on one, didn't he?
Yes, he did.
That's pretty cool. Before we swing right into the workshop, tell us, and again, viewers, I'm going to have the link for this. Tell us quickly about your 30-day love challenge, please. I know that's near and dear to your heart.
30-day love challenge is in my book, No Regrets. And Patricia, this is a massive way to really test yourself to see if you're walking in biblical love. I took 1 Corinthians 13, the love chapter, which you normally hear at weddings. Mm-hmm. And when Apostle Paul was teaching on love, he was teaching the church how to walk in love. It really didn't have anything to do with weddings. It was to teach and train the church. If you want to walk in power, if you want to walk in biblical authority, then you need to walk in love. Mm. So I did a 30-day love challenge. It's downloadable on my website. You literally download, you rate yourself every single day at the end of the evening. Did I walk in love today? And I broke it down according to chapter 13 in 1 Corinthians.
So both of those books are on sale. The direct Amazon link will be above the video after we're finished with this episode. We've got lots of goodies for you. We don't want you to have to feel stressed about writing things down. We're going to help you by just uploading those links. They'll be direct, and they'll be wonderful. Let me check really quickly. I think we have one comment. Sharon Tedford is here. Hey, Sharon. It's good to see you. All right, and so with your permission, I'll periodically, as you're presenting, I'll try to keep it to a minimum, but I'll check Facebook if we have interaction. We want
to
just say, okay, take it away.
Let me read this scripture first. It's in Psalms, Psalm 68:11. The Lord gave the word, and great was the company of those who published it.
Who published it? What?
So, Patricia, this has really been on my heart lately, and because I do teach and train, I do host seminars for writers. I do train people how to build their Facebook presence. With all this going on, this is where I would like to start. God has a plan, and we're supposed to be willing to be part of that plan. And so, as a writer, as an author, the first thing that I want to say to those who are listening, if they want to be serious about a traditional published work, they need to start out in prayer. And I know that sounds so simple, But sometimes what I've seen, I travel across the country, I meet with women, men from all walks of life, and this is what I see. I see in the Christian arena, a lot of times there's this competitive edge to do this certain thing so that you will get to this certain level. And not that that's necessarily bad, but if you want to be a traditionally published author, I think one of the first things that you start with, is this a desire that God has for me? Or is this a desire I have for myself? Mm-hmm. And the reason I differentiate between those two is because I really feel strongly that any book that you write, whether it's, a nonfiction book or fictional, whatever the case may be, there's a reason that you feel compelled to share your story. And so when you have a story that brings value to other people, if you have a story that inspires them or teaches them or trains them, God will put a desire in your heart to share that story by writing a book. And if He gives you the desire, He's going to open the door.
Yes.
He'll open the door. Sometimes we want to get ahead of God and we want to open our own doors. Mm-hmm. And so the real trick to start is sit down and prayerfully seek the Lord's direction. Is this a book that you want me to write? Is this the right timing? Because timing is critical. You can write a great book in the wrong time and lose the opportunity to even get the doors open. Yes. So start out with prayer. Don't write to build your platform. Although you will hear that oftentimes. You'll hear, write a book will build your platform. I really don't feel comfortable with that because I think that's operating out of flesh instead of operating out of spirit. Mm-hmm. If we as believers want something with eternal value, Patricia, then we want to be sure that we're being led of the Holy Spirit. And I think through seeking God through prayer, we can certainly know if it's God's timing and if it's His will for us to write. I remember so clearly, and I shared this the last time, I want to share it again, but when I wrote Hidden Treasures, I first received the direction at the altar after a time of prayer in Burlington, North Carolina. And it was that specific. It was that specific. When I got up from that time of prayer, Patricia, I knew that I knew that I knew I was to write that book. And so I think that what that does for writers, beginners especially, is it should give you a sense of peace and comfort that will follow you through the whole process, because the process is not easy. And there's a lot of rejection that writers get along the way. First-time writers get a lot of no's and very few yeses to start because it's a big gamble. We don't know what's going to be able to happen. So start out in prayer. Don't write to build a platform. Write because you're led of the Lord to write. If you start out on a good foundation, then no matter what happens, you're covered. Yes. No matter what goes on, you know that you're doing exactly what you're called to do. So that's number one. And I can't stress that enough. And then number two, this is an important tip that I want to share. I've got more than 4, so I hope you don't mind. Okay. But the second thing I want to share is write content that's applicable to a very wide audience. As first-time writers, authors, sometimes what we think is we want to write so specifically about our story that we don't look at the big picture. Mm-hmm. And so for those out there that are starting to write, they want to sit down, they want to ask themselves, okay, this is my story. How broad is the audience? How broad is the reach? Who is my target audience? Who will benefit most from this book? Who's going to buy the book? Who am I speaking to in the book? Because learning your content is critical. Publishers look for in a manuscript. They look for a consistent voice throughout the entire book. So in other words, you don't want to start out as a teacher and then end up as a storyteller without tying those two together all through the book.
Good point.
And that's very important to know. Sometimes people kind of get lost in their story and they forget to tie things together. An author, a publisher is looking for a very tightly woven amount of content that has purposeful, meaningful direction in the writing. So you first have to ask yourself, why am I writing? You know, I'm a teacher at heart. So everything I write, there's going to be a teaching aspect to it. I love personal stories because that's the way I teach. So in my books, you're going to very quickly see that there's a lot of personal stories. And in those personal stories, I am going to pull out nuggets of valuable information that will teach lessons to the reader. And so with number 2, write your content that's applicable to a very wide audience. So you ask yourself, you know, in this book, you know, who is going to pick it up and read it? Who is going to pick it up and read it? Then number 3, I would strongly suggest write content that will inspire, teach, tell a story. You have to have purpose behind the content. And I touched on that just a minute ago. If you don't have purpose behind the content, you'll get lost. Your writing will go astray. For instance, in No Regrets, every chapter in this book, I wrote it in such a way that will teach people how through their daily life, they can develop a legacy, live a legacy, build a legacy, live a legacy, leave a legacy through their actions so that at the end of their life, they have no regrets. Every chapter is consistent with that theme. So a first-time writer needs to sit down and think in their mind, okay, what is my consistent theme? What is my consistent theme through this entire process?
Okay.
Number 4, as a first-time author or someone who wants to become traditionally published, you know, we can self-publish all day long, and that's fine. And there are you know, times and reasons that that's a good thing. Although you have to be careful, because if you publish self-published works that aren't doing anything, sometimes publishers will not touch it because they look at your track record and say, no. So you want to be really cautious. Make that decision up front. What's most important to you, a traditionally published book or a lot of self-published books? So the next thing, number 4, what a traditional publisher is going to look at, they're going to look at your social media platform. And there is no getting around it, Patricia. Any publisher out there, they're going to want to see on one given platform, any given platform that you happen to feel comfortable on, whether it's Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, wherever your platform is, they're going to expect to see at least 10,000 followers on that platform. I remember when Charisma House came to me and, you know, I had submitted an idea to them and they came to me and they said, we like the idea, but do you have a platform? And at the time, Patricia, I hated Facebook. I didn't have time. I just didn't have time to spend a lot of time on Facebook. And so I got really busy. I learned, I studied, I started to understand what makes it work, why it's important, how you connect with your readers, how you connect with your friends, your family, your church members, how you really start to develop an audience of people who already know you and love you. And from that core base, then you filter out and then you expand. And so, and it's very time consuming. And, I've had people say, well, I'm not going to fool with all that. But really, if you're interested in traditional, there is no option. So I think that's really important that the first-time author that wants to be traditionally published, they understand that. When I started, it was a little easier than it is now. Building on Facebook, because of the limitations, because of the algorithms, they've really made it difficult to reach a wide audience. My numbers, I have about 4 different pages, and I would strongly suggest that to anyone that's listening, to have more than one page. And on those pages, having different audiences and cross-post to each of those audiences. And that's a whole other seminar that I teach. Yay! But it's important for the first-time writer to know that that's very much part of the process. So get busy right away. Start building those connections. And the best way to do is start with your public profile and just let people know what you're doing and really start either ministering to them or encouraging them or teaching them, whatever your gift is. Start using it in front of the friends and family you already have, and then go from there. Expand from there. The next thing, so 10,000 plus is pretty much standard. The next thing, and they want to see, this is another thing I've seen that a big mistake people will sometimes make is they will try to purchase likes or followers. Please never do that. That's dangerous. You end up hurting yourself. You have no one responding back, which looks worse. With my Facebook page last year, I was averaging in my engagements at almost 40% engagement, which was only God, Patricia. Only God. It was beautiful. It has dropped off somewhat now because I'm not as active. I'm in the middle of a book tour for the last 3 months, and so I haven't had the time to dedicate to it because it takes a lot of time. But I highly recommend building that platform and spreading it out as quickly as you can. The next thing they're going to look for, they're going to ask you is, do you have a large email list?
Yes.
10,000 of those. They want to see a massive email list. Now, what you can do right away is you can start with just a simple PDF, sign up for this PDF and collect their information, and you can do it on Facebook. So you want a PDF that everybody would want to download. People do it all the time. That helps to start to build your email list. I was really bad. I've got a massive email list, but early on, I would bring home, from events, from conferences, shoeboxes full of business cards, and I would be too busy to put them into a list.
Oh.
You cannot afford to make that mistake. You cannot afford to make that mistake. You want to be consistently building the email list. Everywhere you go, you collect a card. You have a free giveaway at your back table. You have a free download on Facebook. Whatever it takes to garner that email list and to build it, because they will want that first and foremost.
Yeah. Yes.
The next thing that you can do that will help is they're going to want to know how active you are on some media outlet, like television or radio. Have you ever been on television? Have you ever been on radio? Do you have a YouTube channel? Are you active on that YouTube channel? Have you ever done any kind of media work? And so I would highly recommend to the first-time author to start looking at that and becoming familiar with people that have television shows, people that have radio shows, people that have blogs, large blogs, and start making those connections. And one good way, in my opinion, to do that, for years now, 15 years or more, I have been going to national religious broadcasters. And that is a wonderful show, and it's usually in Nashville. But it's a combination of radio, television, media ministries, and by showing up on a regular basis every year, people start to recognize the face. You start to make friends. You start to build relationships. And then you've got an open door when the book is published.
Yes.
And that's critical. So many times, Patricia, what writers do is they kind of stay in this little niche of, we're writers over here. And television people stay over here. And what we really need to do is blend the two together. So by just reaching out to people, getting to know people, hang out where they hang out. If there's media conferences in your city, go to them. If there's media conferences that your friends go to, join them. Do whatever you can do to start getting a presence in that place. And even with radio, there's so many local radio shows that you can just start locally. You can start with your local magazines. They will always look for a feature. You can look for local radio and television because they want news. So start with those places and start to build friendships, associations with those people, so that when the door does open, you can then move.
Yes. All of this stuff is so foundational, isn't it? These
Yes.
things need to be in place. But don't worry, viewers. Robin nor I are suggesting that you do all this in 2 months. That's not even possible. You got to this is the long view.
Yes.
This is the long view.
Yes.
Let me see if anything's going on over on Facebook, please, Robin. While you take a breath. Sharon's here. Let me see let me refresh the page and see if we've got anybody else who has a question. I know a lot more people will have questions afterwards when they're watching the replay. Okay, we're good? We're good. Thanks very much.
Okay, the next thing that I would strongly recommend for a first-time author, read blogs that are written by agents, literary agents. And that's such, it's all time consuming, but you will quickly begin to see what they're looking for and if it's a right fit for you. Because an agent will be absolutely critical to find. That will be your first person that you're going to sell your concept to. And if you can sell your concept to an agent, you're halfway home. Agents, if they love your work, they're going to work hard to get you signed with a publisher. And the beauty of it is they do the legwork. Once they're sold on your concept, they do the legwork. So start out. If you're a mystery writer, you go to the mystery writer agents. If you're a Christian fiction, that's where you want to go. If you're in business, go to those agents. So start to fine-tune even who you might look at as a potential agent. A good way, too, is to find out what books are selling and who their agents are. That's important.
How do we find that out?
Well, one is by asking questions. You can ask questions. You can do research online. A lot of times it's simple research online to find some of this information. And when you start to research agents, then you will start to find who's doing what. Now, if you come to my seminar that I host and hope to host in the spring, I give you, as part of the seminar package, a whole list of my contacts. So that's important to know. Yeah, it's really valuable. So start to read those blogs, and then you'll fine tune, what you're looking for and what they're looking for. And then, Patricia, the next thing you want to do is you want to sit down and you want to write, first of all, the back of the book. That's one of the first things you want to do. You want to write the back of the book, because first thing the reader, the purchaser, is going to do is they're going to look at the cover. And if they like the cover, the next thing they're going to do is they're going to look at the back. And the back of the book will sell your book.
Yes.
So and also what it does, if you sit down and you write out the back of the book, that sounds like you're starting at the end, at the very beginning, and you are. You can always fine tune it. But what this does is it's very impactful, and it says in a nugget what your concept is going to be. And in a nugget, it will let you know who endorses. Phil Cook endorsed this, an awesome media mega giant. And I was so honored that he did. And Thelma Wells did the foreword from Women of Faith for me. So you start to develop on the back cover how you're going to sell the book. And one of the best simple things to do is go to your local bookstore, go to the area that you like and that your book would fit into. Right. And then you're going to pull out books and look at those back covers. And what's so interesting about that is when you're looking at those different things, those different elements, you'll start to devise what is really in your heart that is going to mirror your message to the public. And that's an exciting time. That's very exciting. So as a first-time author, that back cover is going to be critical to pitch to your agent, and then for your agent to pitch to your publisher. Okay. So there's no room for error. It's got to be sharp. It's got to be clear. It's got to be concise. You have to let the reader know what they're going to get in the book. You will be encouraged too. You're going to let the reader know who wrote the book. You're going to want to let the reader know why that matters to you. What's the body of your message? You're going to want to know who is endorsing. Is it just Sally down the street that's doing the endorsement? Or do you have a heavy hitter that's been in media, someone that has some clout in their name to endorse your book? I've been blessed to have some great endorsements and forward because of volunteering in organizations, working in organizations, and going to conferences where I meet people and start building those relationships now. Not when the book is written, you want to do it now. Yeah. And so once the back of the book is written, then you can focus on a query letter. A query letter is going to be a letter that you're going to send out once you find an agent that you want to target. You want that, basically your back of the book is going to become the gist of your query.
Right.
So that when the agent first looks at that letter or email, whichever, he or she is gonna quickly see the power punch of your message.
Yes.
Why is it important that this work goes out? Who the work is targeted to? What gives you the authority to write the book?
Mm-hmm.
What makes it unique to you, but broad to touch on a wide audience? And that information is going to go in a query. And in the seminar that I teach, I help people actually write those out.
Oh.
So it's important. It's a very important thing. You want to be sure that you state the title of your book, that you give the word count and the gentry of the book. Where's it going to fit? Where's it going to fit? You're going to explain to the literary agent why this work must hit the market.
Mm.
And so once you start to develop some of those thoughts in your own mind, you quickly see that you have to be your best salesman.
Yes.
And you have to believe beyond belief that this is something you're called to do and it's worth investing in, because it's an investment. It's an investment for a traditional publisher, a publisher to pick you up. Mm-hmm. They need to sell a certain number of books just to break even.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So there's there's an investment on their part. And so the more, Patricia, you do up front, the more you do in your part, the more likely you're to succeed. This is what I see people do, is they'll have an idea, they'll write a simple paragraph, and they'll shoot it out. And they'll expect people to jump on board. In a Christian nonfiction, what a publisher wants to see, they want to know that the work is 90% finished. Mm-hmm. They don't need to see the whole manuscript. Mm-hmm. Actually, they'd only like to see about 2 chapters. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. But many authors don't want to do the work. They want the publisher to gamble on a concept.
Oh.
Publishers don't want to gamble on a concept. Mm-hmm. They want to know that if they say yes, push the button, go. Mm-hmm. So the more professional your package is, even to the agent, the more likely they're going to pick you up. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So that's very important. We talked about doing a press kit, and I would love to spend time doing that. I do teach that in my seminar too.
Okay, we got to find out more about this seminar very soon.
Yes, I'll let you know. I haven't set a date, but it is Get Published, Get Paid. Seminar.
Oh, that's the name of the seminar. Okay.
Get Published, Get Paid, and it's a 1-day seminar. And I work one-on-one with people that come. I sit down, we review things, we go over things, I suggest things. Because once you've gone through the process several times, you really do learn by experience. Mm-hmm. And experience is valuable, Patricia, mm-hmm. very valuable. As we were talking earlier, again, I think sometimes authors don't want to do the due diligence that it takes, the upfront labor. One of the most powerful points I can leave your viewers with is the more professionally packaged they are at the beginning, mm-hmm. the more gusto they will have to go.
Yes, yes, yes.
So, you really have to make sure everything is as professional and up to speed as it can possibly be. Mm. Okay, let's see. How are we doing on time?
Let me see. We're doing good on time. Let me see what's going on in Facebook, if anything. Let me refresh. Sometimes I get more. Sharon asks, Oh, I lost Sharon just a second. She'll be right back. She asks, any thoughts on specific agents' blogs to read? I think you already touched on that, so I'm not sure what the time.
Yes, I would recommend for Christian, Chip McGregor, Terry Whalen, Rachel Garner, and those are just a few. Michael Hyatt, I love his work.
Yes.
So just a few. Those are a few that I would certainly highly recommend to get started on. And before you even send out a letter, a query, you want to make sure that you know what their interests are, yes, what they're looking for. And Patricia, let me go back because I started this off with prayer. Mm-hmm. This is just an amazing thing. God can show you what the market is looking for when you have no idea. Mm-hmm. Hidden Treasures just recently trended on Google, which I was like, whoa, I've never trended on Google. I was excited. But it trended on Google. But what opened the door for this book was the fact that it was highly written regarding heaven and what, biblically, what does the Bible say about heaven? There was a lot of interest at the time in heaven. And then in conjunction with that, treasures, finding God in the midst of darkness, mm-hmm, in the midst of the struggles. It was such an important topic at the time that Abington Press had actually wanted me to write this book before I wrote No Regrets with Charisma House. Mm-hmm. But I had already signed the contract. And so I had no intentions of backing out of that. But God can certainly help guide you as to what even the topic should be and when the topic should be. Mm-hmm. And so that's important. There's certain agents that they'll be looking for certain topics because they work directly with these publishers and they know what the publishers are looking for. Yes. And if you have a good agent, your agent can keep you kind of keyed in on what the publishers are actually looking for. Mm-hmm. And not to direct your work, but to at least let you know, well, they're interested in this and that, maybe not so much. Yeah. So that you can certainly have a little bit of guidance from your agent, mm-hmm, as to what's really important and relevant.
Can we say just a moment
pardon?
Can we say just for a moment that true or false, we should not pay an agent to be our representative? True or false?
Yes. You do not pay an agent. An agent will get a percentage after, once the contract is written and everything's decided upon from the whole process. But up front, if someone is charging you up front as an agent, they're not a legitimate agent.
Absolutely.
And so thank you for that, because that's very, very important to know. So, and as we were talking, writing a killer query letter is next step that is so vital. Mm-hmm. So you want it to be very professional, not like, hey, Joe. You want to address them properly, Mr. or Mrs. So-and-so. You want to state the title of your book. You want to give the word count. And what they want to know is you need to let them know how big your book is going to be. Mm-hmm. Because they want to know that, publishers want to know that you've done your work. Mm-hmm. And on an average, most are about 40,000 words. So you want to do your research. If you're writing a devotional, it's going to be different than if you're writing a nonfiction versus a novel. It's going to be different. But you want to know what the average is in your area and know it well. And so put that in the letter. You're going to use proper tone. You want to use a very professional tone.
Yes.
You want to keep your query letter to 1 page.
Yes.
1 page. Sometimes writers, we like to write. We like to, get our thoughts on paper. And what I've learned about writing is publishers value concise writing.
Yes.
And that'll start in your query. Whether you're reaching out to your agent or directly to a publisher, you want to be very concise and do not waste and be wordy, because they don't like that. They want it to be tight. And then you want to tell them why you're qualified to write the book. What experience did you have that makes you qualified to write that book? And so those are some of my main points to get a beginner started. Does anybody have any questions?
Let me see. Janelle. Hey, Janelle. It's so good to see you. Janelle says, thank you so much for this info. I recently came back from my very first writers conference, and I received some positive feedback about my concept and writing. I've been working on platform and have 2 editors who are interested, in me sending them my proposal. I have a draft ready along with 3 chapters, but how do you get past the insecurity to push send? How do you know when you're ready? Great question.
Good question. One thing, if you have written 3 chapters and are going to send them out, be sure that they have been professionally edited. Do not trust your own editing. Now, my husband, he edits everything. And books that I send out, my manuscripts, my editors say, this is extremely clean manuscript. So unless you have an editor in your family that's exceptional in writing skills, pay the money to get a professional editor to edit even those first 3 chapters. The next thing that you want to do to have that confidence, you have to say to yourself at the very beginning, you have to say, I'm okay to get 100 no's and 1 yes. And you have to say, I'm willing to wait and I'm willing to do the due diligence. Because a lot of times what happens is, and I've seen this, I've worked with authors, I've worked with writers who, they'll send out 50 hard copies of a manuscript and that, to 50 different agents, literary agents, and they get back 50 no's and they stop. Well, if you start out in prayer and you feel confident that God has led you to do this work, don't stop. You find 50 more agents. And you keep finding agents until you find the right agent that is going to see the work as viable.
Yes.
And so that's why I said starting out with prayer will help you get through the entire process. And because you're going to face rejections. I was shocked to get as many no's as I got to begin with. Because it's God's will, and you're thinking, well, the first one I'm going to send it to is going to be a yes. Doesn't work that way.
And you were in the professional field and well known for years and years.
Yes, I have been in media for many, many years. I had lots of contacts, and I'm glad you said that, Patricia, because this is what I want the readers that are listening to understand. My contacts did not get my contract.
Oh.
That's important to know. What did get my contract was the power of prayer and following God's leadership. Yeah. And I remember Charisma House, it was so amazing because my acquisitions editor, she called me and she said, will you meet at our booth at NRB? And I said, sure, I'd be happy to. So you can get to know some of the people there. And this is before it had gone through the different processes.
Okay.
And the next day she called me back and she said, will you sit down with the VP of Charisma?
Wow.
And I said, oh, I think I will. And she said, this was her words to me, Robin, this never happens. She said, do you understand? It never happens. And I said, I do understand. And I understand that the Lord has opened a massive door.
Yes.
And so, I think that's so valuable, Patricia. People need to understand that. You can get something going through connections, and you need connections. I don't dismiss that at all. Mm-hmm. They're vital through the process, but starting in prayer is more important.
Yeah.
And so having that confidence to say the work is good, the mission is of God, and I'm going to see it through regardless of the rejections. Mm-hmm. And be okay with no. I mean, I had some of the very top agents in the country say no. It's like, okay. Okay.
You must not be the one God wants me to work with.
That's exactly the bottom line. And Patricia, when you know that God He's got the perfect person out there for you, then you're okay with no. It doesn't devastate you. If you get 50 no's in a row, it's okay. You get through it. You find 50 more. Mm-hmm. And so I hope that answered the question.
It was excellent. Janelle follows up. She says, I had a published author edit it, and I'm waiting to hear back from one more. So she's got agents interested, editors, published author editing it. It sounds like you're doing what you can, Janelle, to make wise decisions.
Yes. Having that accomplished up front, having that, like I mentioned before, the tightly woven thought process through those 3 chapters, clarity of thought, think about the elements that you want in the book. And what I mean by that is go to the bookstore, pick up 10 or 12 books, sit down and look at the different book elements. And I teach a whole seminar on book elements because it's very advanced. You can take it in so many different directions. Mm-hmm. But that helps a publisher when they look at your work. Oh, it's more than just written page.
Yes. And what you're meaning by that, for example, are questions at the end of the chapter, a coordinating workbook. Tell us a little bit more.
Yes, like in my Hidden Treasures, at the end of each book, I have what's called my treasure chest. And it highlights what the person read throughout that chapter. Mm-hmm. And it gives the person some concrete thoughts of that chapter before moving on to the next chapter. Mm-hmm. And so you can handle that in 100 different ways. And I would highly recommend not copying, but doing something that's very unique to you and to your title. Mm-hmm. So that you have something that the publisher has not seen before.
Yes.
In this, I have nuggets of wisdom. Nuggets, you think about, nuggets of gold, treasures. So nuggets of wisdom. So interspersed throughout my book, nuggets of wisdom, which are scripture that people can stand on as they're dealing with some of these challenges of life. And then I have what I call share-worthy in my book, and that's another element. And I called it share-worthy because I'm telling the reader, share this. It's worthy of sharing. And a lot of times it's a quote that I make in the book. Okay. Or it's a quote that really sparked an interest in my heart. Mm-hmm. So, book elements are scriptures, they're quotes, they're life lessons, they're applications, they're triggers. You can devise, be wise about how you pick your book elements, and book elements are important to you.
Mm. And they really flesh out and bring home the point of each particular chapter, don't they?
Yes, they do.
With practical application.
Yes.
Oh, this has been so good, so rich. Let me check one more time and see if we've got anything. Oh, I misunderstood. Janelle does not yet have an agent. Or she said, roar. But she's praying a lot, and that's what's going to do it for you. That's what's going to do it for you. This has been so fantastic, and anytime that you want to come back, we would be happy to have you. And for somebody who's so busy, such a full calendar, doing your own book tour already, I mean, in the midst of a book tour, that's crazy talk for you to be able to come back, and we just appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. I love doing this. Teaching is my thing. I love it.
We're going to find out some more information about it. Do you have, at this point, do you have a landing page for people to sign up for more information?
I do not. I do not. I'm planning it for spring, and I will finish my book tour Thanksgiving. So hopefully I will have it by the end of November. I would highly recommend anyone interested, they can either email me at robin@robinbertram.org, or they can visit me at my website, robinbertram.tv. Very simple, my name, .tv, robinbertram.tv. Or they can connect with me on Facebook at official Robin Bertram and leave a message or email me is the best thing. I can set up a private day with a client and work the whole day, and we would literally work every concept needed from beginning to end to publish a book and get it traditionally published.
Well, good gracious. Now, you have only published traditionally. Is that right? You've got 3 books.
I have 3 traditionally published books. I have some Bible studies that I published from this book.
Okay.
That go in line with Shadows Among Us. A great book on healing and deliverance.
And that's a whole other topic, is ancillary. Another subject is ancillary products.
Yes.
Workbooks, study books, Bible study guides. Small group guides, and that's just written stuff. That's not even counting other products. Once you get your mind started thinking, it can just take you all kinds of places, can it?
It sure can. I wish I had more days in my year and more hours in my days.
It can really, that could be the key to unlock a lot of ideas, creative ideas. And in some cases, they shape, the future ancillary products shape your core product, true?
Yes, very much so.
So it's very helpful. If you can, if the Holy Spirit reveals all of it at the same time or most of it at the same time, then you can shape both of them and present the package to the publisher. This is what I see in the future. That makes you even more valuable. You've got a plan, you're professional, you know what you're about. And Robin touched on this. I want to go back to it for just a second. When you're doing your query letter, talk about your readers. Don't talk about yourself. Talk about your readers. You do need to talk about yourself and present what event or credentials or education gives you the authority to talk in an educated manner. But at the same time, you can be a janitor who has been serving at a school for kindergarten through 6th grade school for 30 years and heard all kinds of stories and troubles and hopes and dreams. And according to the kind of book that you've written and the Holy Spirit's called you to write, you are the exact right, you have the exact right credentials so don't think that you have to have 7 letters behind your name.
Right.
Don't swallow that poison, because the enemy tries to poke a hole in our face all the time, doesn't he?
Yes.
You can't do it because of this, and then you can't do it because of this. Robin said it. If God's called you, kick him in the teeth and go out the door to go and obey Jesus. Okay? Yes. You got to get a handle on him.
Yes.
Okay, I'm getting excited. I'm going to have to get my handkerchief out. Episode number 153, 4 steps to write and we had more, and they were all good, to write a traditionally published book with author Robin Bertram. Tomorrow, author, speaker, and counselor Catherine Barner is going to join me. She's been a well-respected counselor for years and years. She's going to tell us how she's launching her first book. So that's a great segue. What we've done today is a great segue into what Catherine is going to help us with. Even though she's very well established, this is her first book. This is a very exciting time, and she's learning just like everybody else does. No matter how many people tell you stuff, you got to learn it yourself. We're here every weekday at 12 Pacific, 3 Eastern, and we're here for you, to serve you, to help you shape your message, to help you write it, speak it out in a creative way as artists do. What is it that you need? Tell us what you would like us to help you with, and we will create a program for that if we don't already have one planned. We'd be glad to help you because why? Because there are millions of people online who are seeking Christ, and they don't even know, some of them don't even know his name. So we've got to get out as speakers and representative of Christ. We've got to get into the online world and become comfortable with it and know how to maneuver in it so that they can find his message in us. And their eternity changes. Sweet. It's a great cycle. We thank you for being here. Again, Robin, appreciate it so much. See you tomorrow.